I want to talk to you today about traditional IRAs. The thing here is that according to research, 78% of Americans do not understand really what a traditional IRA is. So in today's show, I'm going to explain to you in easy, everyday English what an individual retirement account is. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, I'm going to talk to you about traditional IRAs, and I'm going to explain everything to you in easy, everyday English. Before I get into the nitty-gritty, let me give you the skeleton of today's show. So first, I'm going to talk to you about what a traditional IRA is. How does a traditional IRA work? How do you open a traditional IRA? How much money do you need to open an IRA? What are pros and cons of IRAs? I'm going to do I'm going to talk about traditional IRA distributions and withdrawals. What are key IRA rules? Can a traditional IRA account lose money? Are IRAs and 401ks the same thing? And are there other type of IRAs? So first, a traditional IRA offers thousands in tax deductions if you are eligible, and it helps you invest for the future. That's no question about it. So what is it? What is a traditional IRA? A traditional IRA is a type of individual retirement account in which individuals can make a pre-tax contribution and the investments in the account grows tax deferred. In retirement, the owner pays income tax on withdrawals from a traditional IRA. And how does it work? Here are the key characteristics of a traditional IRA and as well as the general concepts. So you open a traditional IRA at a brokerage, robo-advisor, or bank. So if you get one from a broker, you'll be able to invest in stocks and bonds. IRAs from banks generally offer certificates of deposits, the CDs, and savings accounts. All right. So you invest the money in your account. You can invest in stocks, bonds, and other assets. How much your account grows per year and whether you lose money depends on how you invest. For a long-term goal like retirement, stocks and bonds can be a sensible choice between those options because they have a higher historical returns. Contribution limits also play an important role, and they change every year. So you can add $6,000 per year in 2020 and 2021, but $7,000 if you are 50 or older. Even if you are also contributing to a 401k or other workplace saving plans. Okay, very important. So generally, you or your spouse must have earned income to contribute to an IRA. You can also add to your IRA by rolling over money from another retirement account. Contributions are also tax deductible. For example, if your income is $60,000 and you contribute $6,000 to a traditional IRA, then your taxable income that year will drop to $54,000, assuming you qualify for the tax deduction. I will talk about that later on. You also have withdrawal rules, so you are not taxed on gains until you withdraw them. So early withdrawals may be taxed as income and assessed a 10% penalty. So traditional IRAs are not the same as Roth IRAs because with Roth IRAs, there is no tax deduction when you make contributions, but your withdrawals come out tax-free in retirement. So you never pay taxes on your investment earnings as long as you follow the Roth IRA rules. I'll speak about that later on. So how do you open a traditional IRA? The two popular ways to get an IRA are through brokers and robo-advisors. So let's first talk about brokers. If you want to choose investments for yourself, an online broker can be a good way to go because with a broker, you will select from investments accessible through that provider, including stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And the second option, robo-advisor. So if choosing your own investments funds sounds too daunting for you, you can consider a robo-advisor because these providers which now include many of the most recognizable names in investing. They use automated technology to choose investments based on your goals and investing horizon, all for a fraction of what a traditional investment manager might charge. So, robo advisors include Robinhood, for instance. You have Ally Invest, you have Charles Schwab, you have TD Ameritrade. So you have the newbies as well as the old players, such as TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab's. And how much money do you need to open an IRA? This is a very important question. Many discount brokers and robo advisors have $0 minimums to open an IRA. It really doesn't, you don't have to spend $1,000. No. The thing here is that the tax perks of investing in an IRA start only when you start contributing money to the account, right? You don't need to come up with all your full contribution all at once, so don't worry about that. You are also now required to save the maximum the IRS allows, up to $6,000 in 2020 or $7,000 if you are age 50 or over. You can do things gradually. Just take your time. You can add money to your IRA at whatever cadence and amount work for your budget. And the cool thing here is that many brokers and robo advisors allow savers to set up automatic deposits to transfer money from your bank account into your IRA account. All right. So, and all the players that I spoke to you about, all the top IRA providers, E-Trade IRA, Betterment, Ellevest, SoFi Automated Investing, Ally Invest Managed Portfolios, Charles Schwab's, all those platforms, they allow you to actually do things automatically. Let's talk about the pros and cons of IRAs. So I'm showing you right now, we have done we have prepared a comparative table, and I'm showing this to you right now on the screen here. And the IRAs have more benefits than drawbacks. And here are some of the pros and cons on the screen. So pros, there are no income limits to open and contribute to a traditional IRA. If you are eligible for the tax deductions or on contributions, you can claim it whether or not you itemize deductions on your tax return. You have tax deferred growth, means any gain you would pay taxes on in a standard brokerage account are pushed down the road, which is fantastic. You can use traditional IRA money to pay for qualified college expenses without paying an early distribution penalty, although you'll pay taxes on the distribution. Another benefit is that you can use up to $10,000 from a traditional IRA toward the purchase of your first home. Again, you will owe taxes on the distribution, but no penalty. What about the cons? If you tap the money before age 59 and a half, you will pay taxes and a 10% early distribution penalty unless your withdrawal qualifies as an exception. The IRS has strict rules around what qualifies as an exception, and you might want to double check that on the IRS's website. Another drawback is that you must begin taking distributions called required minimum distributions at age 72. There are no required minimum distributions with Roth IRAs. And the third drawback here is that if you're covered by a retirement plan at work, your ability to deduct IRA contributions may be reduced or eliminated at the higher incomes. What about traditional IRA distributions and withdrawals? So here is the basic overview that you have to, the 411, all right? So generally, you can start taking distributions from a traditional IRA when you reach age 59 and a half. You pay regular income tax on distributions from your traditional IRA, right? Depending on the tax bracket you're in, of course. If you take money out of your traditional IRA before 59 and a half, you may have to pay a 10% early withdrawal penalty. And there are some exceptions to this early withdrawal penalty, such as you need money for college, you are buying a house, or other reasons. You don't have to start taking distributions from your traditional IRA just because you reached your 59 and a half birthday. You can wait, all right? However, you can't wait forever. You must start taking required minimum distribution, the RMDs, when you reach age 70 and a half or 72, depending on your birth date. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another session of the Awesome Studio Kiwi Show. We are still having a conversation about traditional IRAs, and I'm explaining everything to you in easy, everyday English. What are key IRA rules? First of all, who is eligible for a traditional IRA? The good news is that, folks, everyone, and I mean it, everyone can open and contribute to a traditional IRA. The bad news is that not everyone is eligible to deduct contributions to a traditional IRA. So qualifying for a traditional IRA when you have a 401k or other employer plan. So if you or your spouse has a retirement plan at work, the amount of your traditional IRA contribution that you can deduct is reduced or eliminated altogether once you hit a certain income. And you can still make contributions though, but they will not be tax deductible. This is very important to remember. And if you and your spouse, if you're married, don't have retirement plans at work, then you can deduct your IRA contribution no matter how much your income is. And the income limits apply to your modified adjusted gross income, your MAGI, which is your adjusted gross income with some deductions and exclusions added back in. And if you want to have more info about the MAGI rules, you want to head to the IRS website, and there is publication 590A. Okay, and should you contribute to a traditional IRA if you cannot deduct it? This is a good question. It really depends on your situation. Non-deductible IRA contributions can still be valuable in our research because money for retirement is money for retirement, and your investment earnings will still grow tax deferred. But this can also be a headache. You are responsible for keeping track of after-tax contributions by filing IRS Form 8606 each year. So you're not taxed again on that money when you take retirement distributions. We actually covered Form 8606 on another show. You might want to double check that. So if you're interested. And so in short, there are better options you should max out before going down the non-deductible IRA road. So a Roth IRA if you are eligible. So these accounts have income eligibility rules, but they are higher than the limits of the limits to deduct traditional IRA contributions. And another route is that your employer sponsored retirement plan. So consider maxing that account out before making non-deductible IRA contributions. So this could actually make you eligible. This could actually make you eligible for an IRA deduction because your contributions to the workplace plan lower your taxable income for the year. One thing that's very important here is that people constantly ask the question whether or not a traditional IRA account can lose money. And the answer is yes, it is possible, depending on what you invest your IRA money in. It depends on the underlying securities, right? So if you are investing in the stock market, there will be times your account balance may dip when the market does what is historically done over short periods of time. You have seesaw movements between highs and lows, or you might even have a market correction, as we've seen recently with the COVID-19 drop between March and April. But again, those are temporary. If you can be actually patient, you should be fine, because don't let those temporary yo-yos spook you. Over the long term, which is the investing time horizon you have in your IRA, investing in the stock market gives you the biggest bang for your buck. From a historical standpoint, an investment in an index mutual fund that tracks the returns of 500 of the largest U.S. companies is actually likely to far outpace what you would earn investing in treasury bonds, T-bills, or even gold. So the key to ensuring any losses are just temporary is to stay the course. You got to be patient. You got to stop looking at the screen every week. You got to stop checking your IRA account or your 401k every week or every month, right? So you got to stay the course. So having a long-term investing time horizon and the temperament to weather the storm are how fortunes are made in the first place. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And we actually have done research about this, and also Fidelity Investment has done this research, and they have actually studied the behavior of about 1.5 million people in workplace retirement plans. And according to Fidelity Research, investors who continue to invest in stocks even through the 2008-2009 market crash they ended up 10 years later with account balances about 50% higher than people who sold out of stocks during the downturn. So this is pretty powerful. The ability to stay the course, the ability to weather the storm, the ability just to be patient. Number 9. So are IRAs and 401ks the same thing? That's a great question we want to cover too. So both IRAs and 401ks are retirement savings accounts. Okay, that's clear enough for everyone. And both offer tax breaks as an incentive to sock away money for your future. All right. Now, but 401ks are available only through an employer. In technical IRS language, they are employer-sponsored retirement plans. So that's for 401ks. While IRA accounts can be set up by any individual who has earned income. And there are other differences. So 401ks have higher annual contribution limits than IRAs. So you have $19,500 in 2020 versus $6,000 in IRA. You have something called catch-up contribution. So catch-up contribution limits are also higher in workplace plans. So if you are age 50 or older, the IRS allows you to save an additional $6,500 in 2020 in a 401k. So the maximum annual catch-up contribution allowed in IRA is $1,000. Okay, you have until the tax filing deadline in April of the following year to make contributions to an IRA. Contributions to a 401k must be made by December 31st in order to qualify for the current tax year. And we've done research and we found that some 401ks have a vesting period where employees have to wait a certain period of time before they are allowed to participate in the plan. There is no vesting period with an IRA. Some employers will sweeten the pot with a 401k and kick in their own money to match a portion of what employees save. So that extra money may be subject to a vesting period. And investment offerings in a 401k are determined by the plan administrator. And if an IRA is the option that you choose, you have much broader choices. Okay, so if you choose, for example, to open an account at a discount brokerage, you can pick from mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, bonds, and more. ETF stands for exchange traded funds. Okay, so if you're wondering if it's better to save a 401k or an IRA, here is some good news. You don't have to choose. The IRS allows the savers to contribute to both an IRA and a 401k at the same time. That's fantastic, right? And if you leave your company, you can take the money with you and roll it over into an IRA. And they call it the rollover IRAs. We have covered the topic of rollover IRAs in other shows. Okay, so our advice is that if your 401k offers an employer match, you want to invest enough to get the full match. After that, direct your retirement savings dollars into a Roth or a traditional IRA to take advantage of the more expensive lineup of investments. So the final section of this show is, are there other types of IRAs? Yes. The short answer is yes. There are other popular types of IRAs out there, such as you have Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, and simple IRAs. But there are also these types of IRAs. You have backdoor Roth, spousal, self-directed, inherited, and rollover. And we have an entire shows about IRAs, and check those IRA videos if you want to learn more, and you'll be very happy afterwards. Okay, so thank you so much, folks, for your attention. Let me quickly recap what we spoke about today. So I spoke about what a traditional IRA is. How does a traditional IRA work? How do you open a traditional IRA? How much money do you need to open an IRA? What are the pros and cons of IRAs? Traditional IRA distributions and withdrawals. What are key IRA rules? Can a traditional IRA account lose money? Are IRAs and 401ks the same thing? And are there other types of IRAs? Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.